Easter, is everything we know about Jesus' crucifixion wrong? Easter celebrates the story of Jesus and his resurrection, but is everything we know about the crucifixion actually fiction? What if Jesus wasn't actually crucified at all? After all, evidence shows that Romans did not use crosses at all. It is one of the most iconic, recognizable, and important images in the entire history of the world. Outside of churches and religious iconography, the image of Christ on the cross has been recreated countless times in popular culture, especially on the big screen. Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ presented an unflinching look at the last days of Jesus as they have traditionally been perceived. But what if much of what we always thought we knew was wrong? What if historical documents paint a totally contradictory picture? Is the crucifixion actually crucifixion? A recent book gives exhaustive evidence based on historical documents. It may be strange to learn that it is closely linked to a movie which actually seems to parody the events portrayed in the Bible and beyond, but the author Julian Doyle has marshaled impressive arguments. Doyle was the film editor on Monthy Python's Life of Brian but has dedicated years to researching his book, Crucifixion's a Doddle. He shared his 7 most shocking findings with Express Online.1. The image of Jesus on the cross has been invented by commissioned artists. After realizing something was wrong, I checked back to see the earliest images of Jesus being crucified, but there are none. It is not until the 4th century that scenes of the crucifixion of Jesus began to appear. And this is the first one. Yes, this is it, the very first image of the Crucifixion of Christ, which appears on a small panel on a wooden side door of the Church of Santa Sabina in Rome, which was consecrated in AD 440. So around AD 430 the image we know was invented. Invented because not only is there no image of Jesus on the cross, but there is no image of anyone on a cross. 2. You cannot carry the size of tree Jesus is shown crucified on. You can see we made small crosses for the actors to carry in the life of Brian. Only an Olympic athlete could carry the trees usually depicted, but the actors still struggled with these. 3. The post is set in the ground as a permanent fixture. See in the picture the executioner is up a ladder, which is leaning on the cross. The cross has to be set deep in the ground to stay up. What happens to the cross after Jesus is taken down? Is it thrown away so the next victim can use his own cross? Or dug up and taken back for the next victim to carry back up? No, as in the picture, it is a permanent. 4. The primary purpose of crucifixion is not to kill a criminal. See in the picture where the executioner is removing nails from a previous victim to make the cross available for the next. When I asked Terry Gilliam why he did something so subversive, he just said it was probably his morbid senses. But clearly it was also just so logical. Why does this totally undermine the story in the Bible? Because, surely the purpose of crucifixion is to put the body on show, as a deterrent, as long as possible. Upright like a banner, struggling with pain, degraded and dehumanized, till it rotted. Now just consider Joseph of Arimathea's visit to Pilate when he is told he can retrieve the body as long as he is already dead. Are they joking? They make a cross for a man, he carries it to Golgotha, they nail him up, and after a few hours he drops dead and Pilate says, "Okay, you can take him down now." What an absurd amount of effort and time, not to mention a ridiculous use of a valuable tree, to kill a man. 5. Jesus could not have died in just 4 hours. In the film, Eric Idle's statement as Mr. Cheeky, the guy crucified next to Brian, is revealing. Eric is suggesting that death does not come that quickly. In the Bible, Jesus is raised on the cross at either 9 or 12 o'clock and is dead by 3 p.m. Eric, we've got a couple of days up here. Plenty of time. Lots of people get rescued. Yet. My brother usually rescues me, if he can keep off the tail for more than 20 minutes. Randy little bugger. Up and down like the Assyrian Empire. Every Easter in the Philippines, they perform a passion play culminating with the actual nailing up of at least 3 penitents onto crosses. Reuben Enage, age 53, has been crucified 27 times. He began his yearly rite after surviving a fall from a 3-story building. The wounds can take 2 weeks to heal. So the likelihood of someone dying in such a short period of time seems impossible. To cover this criticism, one Gospel, John, tries to suggest Jesus was speared in the side to prove he was dead. Problem is, it says, and immediately blood and water came out. Which means the heart is pumping, so he is evidently not dead. 6. Crucifixion was not the method of capital punishment used by the Romans. Look at this from the Jewish historian Josephus, writing at the time. Varus sent his army into the country, to seek out the authors of the revolt. He punished those that were most guilty. The number who were crucified on this account were 2,000. How can these numbers possibly be? Where are all these trees coming from, not to mention the tons of nails, 6,000? The answer, strangely, is just a matter of translation. The word we always translate as crucifix, stauros, does not actually mean crucifix at all. Here is the full dictionary definition. The word stauros comes from the ancient Greek histemi, straighten up, the same root from which come the German stern, or the English stand. In classical Greek, until the early 4th century BC, stauros meant an upright stake, pole, or which might be used in impaling. In the literature of that time, it never means 2 pieces of timber placed across one another at any angle, but always one piece alone. So there is no reason to believe Jesus was on a cross at all, nor that the 2,000 in the revolt were. In fact, it would almost be impossible. They were tied or nailed to a stake or even impaled, a la Vlad the Impaler, and it would all be translated by us centuries later as crucifixion. 7. Jesus was not crucified. If he was killed for blasphemy, he would have been stoned. The most subversive scene in life of Brian is the first one we actually shot, which in context totally undermines the Bible story. High Priest John, you have been found guilty by the elders of uttering the name of our Lord, and so as a blasphemer you are to be stoned to death. The scene is based on Jewish law as expressed in the Bible. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, the one who blasphemes the name of the Lord shall be taken outside the camp, and let all who heard him lay their hands on his head, then let all the congregation stone him. Leviticus 24:14. Now look at Jesus' trial before the same Sanhedrin. Jesus said, "You shall see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power." Tearing his clothes, the high priest said, "What further witnesses do we need? You have heard the blasphemy." And they all condemned him to be deserving of death. Mark 14:61. Jesus' crime is also clearly blasphemy, so why do the Sanhedrin take Jesus to Pilate? Blasphemy has nothing to do with the Romans. The crime is punishable, as shown in Life of Brian, by stoning, which is clearly decided by the Jews themselves. Crucifixion/staking is the Roman punishment for rebellion.